from a phenomenological engineering standpoint?
Yeah. I think it involves nanotechnology. It involves what's called quantum wells, which are like two-dimensional structures, and it involves what's called the fractional quantum Hall effect, in which what happens is that the quantum mechanics changes drastically when you compress three dimensions of space to two dimensions of space.
How do you do that?
Well, you do that. That's what nanotechnology does that. For example, if you have nanowires, that's like a one-dimensional space.
Right.
If you have two little slabs separated by a nanometer or so, that's effectively a two-dimensional space. The physics inside the slab is like a two-dimensional space. And what happens, you get these very new, strange, what's called fractional quantum statistical anion effects, and in which you can get high temperature superconductivity, for example. Really high temperature.
In fullerene nanotubes?
Well, no, I'm not talking about maybe nanotubes will play a role, to connect. But I'm talking about slab. I'm talking about two-dimensional, like thin film layers.
Okay. So we're talking purely theoretical at this point.
No, it's not theoretical. There's experimental stuff, and it's more than theoretical. And there's a lot of experimental nanotechnology for what are called quantum wells occurring, and you get what's called the fractional quantum Hall effect, in which the electrons are moving on a two-dimensional plane, basically, and there's a magnetic field that's perpendicular to the two-dimensional plane, and you get all kinds of exotic, what are called fractional quantum numbers, and it's thought that under certain conditions you can create high-temperature superconductivity. I'm talking about really high temperature, like room temperature, and even higher,
right.
Room temperature.
Right, which would be very applicable to propulsion.
There's a guy named Giovanni Modenese in Italy, who has shown how these high temperature, how superconductors can interact and modify the gravitational field. So that might lead to a kind of a real anti-gravity effect. The interaction of superconductors with gravitation leads to new possibilities.
Is this related to in any way these spinning superconductor experiments? The pod.
That subject came up. Yes, it may be related to that.
A couple other recent papers that just came out about spinning superconducting disks.
Yes, it's related to that, and that subject was discussed at length at one of the meetings I attended. That's a possibility. Also, we have Ray Chow, who was a very well-known physicist from Berkeley, who worked with Charles Towns to discover the laser, and he has something where he has also published theoretical papers on the interaction of superconductors with gravitational fields, what's called gravimagnetic electromagnetic interaction. He's actually tried to do some experiments. I'm not sure if he's gotten them to work, but doing experiments is tricky. But that's a whole.
Well, NASA was working on that, weren't they, down at?
Well, they never really did, but they didn't have much money.
Whatever became of that?
They didn't have enough money, and also one of the key
the breakthrough propulsion physics.
Yes, they didn't have much money, and it was mismanaged.
Okay, so they were underfunded.
But we had more money than they did, and which
so obviously this may be done. This could be done in the private sector.
Yeah. Okay. No. The one thing that did come up, and this is very important from a national security political point of view, one of the key scientists in this electrogravitic superconductivity sort of stuff is a Chinese woman named Ning Li, and she has disappeared, allegedly going back to China, and our intelligence agencies do have very good
Wasn't she
information.
working at NASA?
She was working at NASA, Redstone Arsenal, and but she disappeared for several years. The people at the Pentagon who were in touch with her cannot reach her anymore. She is allegedly back in China, and the Chinese, Red Chinese, are putting a lot of money into these exotic projects.
Okay, so they're taking this quite seriously then.
Yeah, and that's why our intelligence guys are very interested, because it looks as though the Chinese, who own a lot of America now because of the loans and all that, with the dollar shrinking, that the most likely people to develop the first real anti-gravity UFO sort of propulsion technology are the Red Chinese and possibly the Russians.
Yeah, what's going on with the Russians? I was just going to ask you that. Because Shipov and the torsion field effects, and we're really
The Russians are
popular.
moving it now. The Russians, you see, for a while we were funding the Russians, but now the Russians have their oil. We're being made into a third world country. Our dollar is sinking. We're going to become like Mexico with NAFTA and the open borders, all that kind of stuff. So, but the Russians now are oil rich. They got plenty of money. And my good friend Gennady Shipov claims to be making great progress. In fact, he sent me a bunch of video files. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. We'll post them eventually, okay, on Star Drive. And and they claim to be making great progress in the torsion field work, which I take very seriously because I have my own approach to torsion, curvature torsion extensions of Einstein's theories of gravity, and I think they may be onto something.
Well, it's interesting. I sent you a link to that paper about the spinning disks, and at the bottom of the paper it said that it has something to do with superfluid helium, which was a specialty of yours that you got your PhD in, right?
Right. So, from a theoretical physics